All right, everyone, thank you for staying with us for the day. This is the last session of the day. I'm beyond excited to introduce our next guest. Um, Next, we're going to have Admiral Donegan. Admiral Donegan is currently the head of strategy in cyber for Convergint. Convergint is, I think, probably the largest private physical security integrator in the United States. And introducing someone like Kevin is absolutely my pleasure. He's one of those special types of individuals that overachieves at everything he does. Kevin's background prior to joining Convergint, he was a U.S. Navy fighter pilot, graduate of the Top Gun School. He moved up to become the commander of the United States Navy's Fifth Fleet out of Bahrain, which is basically our entire Middle East Navy. Also was director of operations for U.S. CENTCOM. And then he had a lot of ties on the cyber side as well. He led the integration of the United States kind of offensive and defensive cyber teams, as it related to Middle East AOR operations. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Kevin. Thank you very much.
Hey, John, thanks. That's a more nicer intro than I deserve, that's for sure. But it's great to be joining you today after what has been a superb group of speakers. You know, Mike Morrell kicking it off and listening to Chris Inglis and the team, and then just Ken Kurz and the rest of the folks talking about smart properties. Like you mentioned, I'm going to talk today about cybersecurity and as it relates to the IoT and OT type things that we have with security networks that's really important, especially as we work to protect critical infrastructure during the complications of COVID-19. It's a privilege for me to be part of the conference, especially because of these challenging times for the nation and the whole world. So I'll get right to it and won't spend a lot of time. I know I'm the last speaker today, and everybody's got things to do, and I want to get right to it. So the way I'm going to do this is pretty simple. I'm going to define the problem as we see it, and then I'm going to walk you through solutions. And in the end, I think what you can see is that what I'm going to describe is a real problem, but also we have real solutions that aren't going to cost a lot of money, that aren't really complex, and they can be applied in this important time to protect the critical infrastructure of our businesses and also of the United States during this time. We call security system, when we talk about cyber-related security system, we call it security of security. Specifically, that's the cybersecurity system of the security system of devices. And why is it important, and why am I in here talking to a conference with MSPs? It's because times have changed. You heard in the last brief a little bit of a discussion on the convergence, and I like that term since I work for a company called Convergent, but the convergence of cybersecurity with OT and IT devices, for us with cybersecurity and security, the legacy security systems. Back in the day, it was pretty straightforward. The security systems were run on coaxial cables with analog cameras that were generally completely separate from the IT network. But times have changed, and that's not the same anymore. For almost all our organizations that we look at that are very large, that's been recognized that these two systems have come together. The security systems are indeed networks, and they are either riding on or they're adjacent to the IT network. And therefore, many companies have merged other organizations where the physical security team and IT security team are either working side by side or they're in some cases working together. But a lot of businesses and a lot of customers that we have don't necessarily have the resources to do that. So let me just describe briefly, and it'll be very briefly, what's the physical security system look like in a business or entity? And if you think of it this way, it's a bunch of IoT devices. And I say IoT devices as opposed to endpoints because I think an endpoint for an IoT device has to be looked at in a different way, and you'll hear why. But it's the cameras, it's access control system, the badging systems used to come in and out of your buildings that all critical infrastructure and companies have these days. It's the servers and control rooms where all that information is processed and brought together and displayed. No longer do we have the luxury to completely segregate the physical security network, the security system I just described, from the base IT network. We see in applications that those security networks are either riding as part of the base network or they're connected to the base network in some way or another. So why is that important? Well, look at it from this current environment in terms of threats. We heard a lot about threats today. We heard in the beginning, Mike Morrell talk a little bit about this, but specifically, from a report of Palo Alto, 98% of all IoT device traffic is unencrypted. So therefore, it's pretty much exposed, whether the information or anything that's on that network is potentially can be accessed via the IoT devices. Often we see that many of these IoT devices, and I'm talking about the IoT devices related to the security network now, are often deployed in a default state. What I mean by that is without hardening the device, and you'll find this very interesting. We find that in some cases, we found customers where over 90% of their cameras had either a default password on it or a very simple password. And you all know that simple passwords, there's 5 password combinations. This was from a bleeping computer. I looked it up on the internet, but a bleeping computer has put out that just 5 password combinations, and the simple ones, admin and admin 000, etc. If you just use the 5 most common ones, you can get access to 6 million of all IoT devices globally. That's pretty amazing, especially when you think that the security cameras in our security systems make up only 5% of enterprise-wide IoT devices, but they account for 33% of all the security instances that we have in those companies. So what I'm really saying is the hackers find the path of least resistance, and these IoT devices can be a pathway into the network. The root of the problem is many of these devices are consumer grade and focus on simplicity and not necessarily cybersecurity. Now, we're seeing some new laws come into play now and new guidance, and you heard about it before in the federal government and other places where mandated requirements that we're used to seeing in an IT network are being also applied or will be applied to these IoT devices. So let me just describe the problem very simply then. There's 100 billion IoT devices that'll be deployed by the end of 2020. I don't know if that's an exact number, but it's a lot, okay? They all have IP addresses. For us, we know in the security industry, there's 1 billion cameras out there where and those cameras aren't just being used for forensics, they're capturing generally sensitive information, data, analytics, and they're feeding advanced analytics. In other words, they're carrying a lot of information. The framework that we apply to security and configuration for our networks is not as well defined for these IoT devices. They're not designed with cybersecurity in mind. And there's many different vendors where these, and you've heard from many of the speakers today, the integration points when you start, because we're an integrator, we're a security integrator, we don't make one product. When we pull them together, the interfaces between them are hard to maintain to the highest standards when it comes to cybersecurity. We see legacy systems with open ports that aren't even closed, weak passwords, and then we find this common problem: firmware and patches are woefully unmaintained, as opposed to what you would expect in a normal network. So what I'm trying to say is, although there may be some of the similar standards, the rigors for IoT devices just don't seem to be applied as well to the IoT network, and we're definitely not seeing it applied the way it should be to the security network. And I mentioned on top of that, we've been adding advanced information sensing and collection from these systems. The cameras are sensors. They're providing significant amount of information to our customers when it comes to facial recognition, video analytics, change detection, information about how the company does business, interfaces with customers. A lot of information is flowing on this network, which in and of itself, if it's penetrated, forget the base network, is something that you would want to have controlled. So what do we call that? It's simply the convergence of physical and cybersecurity. As somebody said, how is that defined? That's how I define it. So what are we seeing now with COVID-19? To me, it's just added a complexity. So let me just add that piece. There's less people working on-prem. So that means more working from home. So there's more people remoting in. But we're also not just remoting in like into your IT network. We're seeing the physical security team remote into the physical security system. Again, think about that from a vulnerability standpoint and a threat standpoint. And on top of that, we've seen a very significant rise in hacking and cyber threats. Not just phishing campaigns, but ransomware attacks are taking advantage of the knowledge that this remote in is happening, and they're working to get credentials from users and from colleagues so that they can get into those systems. So now I want to talk about that's now. What's going to happen as COVID and I'm a firm believer as we're going to get past COVID. It may take a lot of time or some amount of time and a lot of effort, but I don't have the crystal ball on how that's going to happen. But there is a future that's going to be different than what it was before we started. And I think there's a couple things likely to happen in that future. One is it's likely to be a smaller workforce. Some folks, a significant amount of folks have been furloughed. They won't instantly come back to work. So there's less people going to remain off-prem. People are going to continue to work more from remote and from home. They've now established a comfort level. Companies have had to do this. And lastly, and money is going to be tighter. So those folks that were going to upgrade to more Gucci systems, enterprise solutions and stuff are going to likely be maintaining their legacy systems for longer than they wanted to. So managing those legacy systems and keeping them secure and keeping them working is going to be something that will be focused on more after this crisis than there was before. So that's the problem. I think it's pretty succinct. And now I want to describe some solutions and get to the final points. So the first thing I'll tell you is the solution is not rocket science. It's not expensive, but it absolutely needs to be addressed because of this elevated vulnerability that I talked about. The standards are out there on how to solve the problem. The standards on solving this issue related to physical security systems and the network of the physical security system is no different than what we apply to our networks, NIST or SANS, whatever SANS, whatever it is that we're going to apply. In Convergint, we've developed a tiered approach to implementing the controls depending on the size, complexity of the security needs of our customer. But let me just kind of lay it out. So first, and this is important to anybody that's a vendor, and we're all that I've listened to today, most of us are vendors in some way, and that is we have to be trusted by our customers. To be trusted by our customers, they have to know that we are not a cyber vulnerability or increasing their cyber vulnerability. We have to go in there and show them that we ourselves have hardened our own companies. We had to raise the level of what we're doing in-house in our own networks and with the things that we do in-house so that our customers can trust us just like they do from a safety standpoint. When our workers go on a job site, we have a really high safety record. Customers like that. They know we're not going to have an issue on their site. They're not going to be worried about liability. They want to see the same thing from a cyber standpoint. They want to trust us with their information and data just like they trust us when we go onto their sites. That's important, trust. And the way you get that trust is you have to apply those standards I just said to your own security system and not just talk about it. You have to show that you're using the best MDR that's out there. We're as a security company, and we use the best MDR managed service provider that we can find. We have the things that we just talked about, the 3 things you always need to do that we heard that have to happen to our system so we can be trusted. Second, we have to harden the solutions that we as the integrator are putting in place for the customer or the legacy systems they have. We have to work with them to ensure that they are protected against this increased cyber vulnerability. And it's not rocket science. It's basic cyber hygiene and training. And just like anything else, 80% of the cyber vulnerabilities can be reduced by a good password management program that manages that password and updates it on some basis because of turnover of workforce. And that's important now because we've seen turnover of workforce, that your firmware and patches are being updated, and that devices are hardened before install to the manufacturer's guide. And when you integrate them, that those device hardening works when they're all pulled together. That's the second thing. So think of that as basic cyber hygiene. The third thing is, again, this capability that combines managed detection and response, which is the threat hunting and the response to any threat that's found in the network, with a good system that monitors the health and knows that the security system is working. So those 2 things together. So MDR, real-time detection and response. Health monitoring is looking at an ability to pass new passwords to your system, update your firmware, do some data analytics, automate that process, and provide a return on investment for maintenance. In other words, go out there to the site where we're going to have less people there and only fix the stuff that you know is going to break instead of waiting for it to break or find out after you needed it that it wasn't working. So those things come together. We've searched now the marketplace to find a tool that does both those two things. That managed detections and response to give you that cybersecurity combined with the health monitoring that I just described, and we couldn't find it for the security system. So we in Convergent have a culture of values and beliefs. And one of the values and beliefs we have is that we give back to our community. So we went to what we believe are the best in breed from the MDR side and the best in breed from the health monitoring side and brought those folks together. So you recognize some of these names. John Murchison from Blackpoint, and we got Roy Dagan from Secure Things. We pulled them together, and together they, Convergent, and those two companies, and we developed not one tool, but we bundled those two companies' tools into a single product, and we're not selling the product. Because of COVID-19, those three companies are joined together, and we're going to give a free installment of what we call Cyber Protection Plus that gives you 24/7 managed breach detection, threat hunting, health monitoring, and automated maintenance. It's aimed at reducing those threats I just described, the cyber threats and the automated operations for mission security systems, video surveillance, access control, fire and life safety, and beyond during COVID-19. Especially with less people on-prem and facilities being vacant, we're targeting this to customers that are critical infrastructure customers, and we're going to go in and offer to them that we install those products and integrate those products into their current systems so they're protected during this critical time. We're going to do that for free for 45 days. Specifically, it's threat hunting and breach detection, we call cyber hardening. It's risk detection for endpoint for the IoT devices to detect and mitigate threats across the network. It's real-time health monitoring utilized to evaluate the health of all the IoT devices I described on that security system, and using machine learning to assist the operational teams in prioritizing maintenance, and then to automate and keep those IoT devices up. And there's options to also do device password rotation as required and firmware updates. In essence, you're going to get an ROI back for a free installation because Blackpoint, Secure Things, and Convergent have a similar value and belief that we have to give back to the community in this specific time. So in summary, we're working and focused now on assisting critical infrastructure customers to protect their security systems from attack and keep them functioning in this critical time. We're focused on healthcare, oil and gas, financial sector, utilities, federal and state governments. We all three companies believe in these values and that it's important to go after them to help these companies at this time. I mentioned on the front end that I would talk to the problem. I hope I did a good job defining the problem, but I also said I would talk to a solution. And I said the solution wouldn't be rocket science, it wouldn't be complex, and it would simply, in the end, I think I met that need because we bundled and got together best in breed capabilities. I said it wouldn't be expensive. I think free in this critical time is as cheap as it gets. And so that's really what I'm talking about for today. I hope this is exciting to you because it's exciting to us because we're able in this very, very important time to come together and solve a critical problem for our customers and get out there now and get this system deployed and get it for free from these three companies. And now I'll see if there's any questions or if not, we get time back. Thank you. Nicole.
Kevin, it doesn't look like anyone has asked any yet. People who are here, we can hang out for a minute or two if anyone has any questions for Kevin.
Kevin, I just want to take an opportunity while I've got you here on stage and thank you deeply for your service to our country.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's, of course, it's the end of the day, so no problem. I think we have a couple of questions that are coming in there. Nicole, I'll let you, you think about, you pick the ones that you think are best for me to address.
Yeah, so Rick is wondering what handles the password management and patching?
Yeah, so specifically the product that does that is an element of Secure Things offering that we can talk in detail about. If you go online, convergent.com, and click on the news tab there, you'll see about three elements down is we just went live with this offering yesterday. This is brand new. And again, a lot of effort into doing this. We're actually looking at a similar thing to do, and so we were able to leverage some work we were doing before and use this critical time to make it available for free.
Awesome. Do you mind really quick just repeating the name of the solution that you said that you guys are offering? Someone was asking if you could just repeat the name of it. And then if you wouldn't mind repeating one more time how it is that people should, find out more about it and sign up for it. A couple people were kind of asking like, how do they get more information and that kind of thing?
Sure. So you go to convergent.com. There'll be a pull down tab that says news. Just go to there and you'll see something that says Cyber Protection Plus. That's what we're calling this. It's a name that applies to the bundled solution that gets at it. I see we got some questions too on how long. So the offering right now, no one knows how long COVID's going to be, but we picked 45 days. And we're going to deploy this to up to 5 separate sites for a customer, initially 1,000 IoT type endpoints, but that's negotiable. If there's a critical infrastructure client, in terms of how long, how many of these we can do, I don't know. We're going to have our 3 companies work this. We'll prioritize as best as we can to get at the needs that are out there and do as much as we can between the 3 companies' capacity that we can.
Okay, and real quick, while you're on that subject still, someone was asking, will this be a bundled product going forward when things go back to normal, or is this just kind of for now?
It's interesting. Before we started this effort, I don't think John and Roy had met. So in a period of about 2 weeks, we not only got those 2 CEOs together, but we have, like I said, this values and beliefs card that we follow. We talked about that and why this was the time that we had to act. So I assume that will, going forward, this bundled product will continue. I'm certain that we can't have it go on forever for free. That's not the point. But right now, this is for free. And we're happy to discuss individually, folks, on how you can do it. How you would go about doing this by reaching out to us via that website.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy how quickly people are able to pull things together in times of need such as this. So it's pretty impressive. Let's see. Tony is asking, what are the major issues you've seen in your experience within organizations during major events like this pandemic? Addressed from a security and leadership perspective, if possible.
Well, that's Nicole. That's quite a question. I think but I'll refer back to what we heard. We heard Mike Morrell talk today a little bit about that, and then we heard even the folks that talked about sales and such. And I think the most important thing that people are looking at from a leadership perspective during the pandemic is calm and pulling the team together, keeping everyone informed, and then sharing, just like always, understanding what the common picture is of the environment. In other words, in the case of businesses, what's the current situation, what we can do, and then building a plan that isn't the old plan. You have to react to the current environment. The environment gets a vote, and you've got to go to where the need is. And there's a need out there in our current United States. We're a global company, but in the United States, there's $1 trillion of money out there of stimulus package to get at the needs our country has right now. We as businesses need to retailer and retool ourselves to get after those needs. That's part of what we did here with this offering.
Cool. And then just the last thing is someone was asking, what are the businesses that would most benefit from this bundled offering? So would it be most applicable to hospitals, medical offices, smart properties, et cetera?
Well, we heard a great discussion on the smart property side. For sure, we believe it's the critical infrastructure related businesses. So, and there's a lot that are linked to that. Healthcare is one. You all know the requirements for maintaining control of information and data when it comes to hospitals and patients' information, but you all see the explosion in the numbers of influx into emergency rooms and our hospitals today, and how that's a lot of inpatient processing. It's a lot of new information. And in some cases, we've expanded the hospitals to be able to do more of this, which means we built extra tents. We occupied other buildings like in New York, and now we had to build new networks. And we had to put the physical security in place and the cybersecurity in place to protect that information and data. Absolutely applies to hospitals, absolutely applies to the key elements of the financial side, the utilities and power generation that has to keep running, federal and state government things that have to keep running, police departments. You can see elements of the things in the cities that have to keep going that we all depend on every day, despite the fact that everyone can't get to work. Those essential services are being done by somebody every day, and that's what we're hoping to keep safe in this time.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like there's really no limit to the essential businesses that would benefit from this bundle. So, okay, so Kevin, I know that people would go to your website, convergent.com, to find out more about that bundle. Is there any way for them to kind of people to reach out if they have any other questions? Should they just hit the contact button on your website?
Yeah, just hit the contact button. That'll connect you immediately to the cybersecurity element of the team, or our folks will direct you to the right place. That way it's one-stop shopping, and realize that we're going to be speaking on behalf of the 3 companies as the integrator where we pull this together. And we expect a lot of work, and we're, because I think it's a great offering, and I think it has tremendous potential to really help in this time of need. And so we're off to the races. You're the first hearing about it, other than we did just put it on the website, so it was there. We haven't begun the population and socialization of this until this very moment, and we'll start tomorrow.
All right, everyone, if you heard that correctly, you guys are the first ones to hear about this offering, so get on it. Ryan, I'll go ahead and give it to you. Kevin, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Kevin, thank you again.
Thanks.
So, all right, everybody. This brings us to the end of today's session. We will see you all again tomorrow at 11 a.m. We're going to do some drawing, so stick around for a little bit while we do that. I want to just talk briefly about tomorrow. It's going to start it off with Bill Priestap. He's a former FBI Assistant Director of Counterintelligence. We had him at ConnectWise IT Nation 2019 doing a talk on why nation states continue to target MSPs and crime organizations as well. His talk is wonderful. We had a lot of requests for that, so we brought that back. Bill will be with John in the morning to kick that off. We also have Datto tomorrow. We've got WebRoot tomorrow. We also have Jamie. She is with ProSource Technologies. They're one of our clients and MSP customers. She's going to talk about how they've been so successful selling MDR and Snap Defense. So if any of you, I know I get those questions a lot, that is going to be a great session. She's going to kind of tell you their secret sauce. So that's good. We're also going to have Javier, our VP of Threat Operations. We call him the X-Man. He is going to be doing a talk as well about the threat landscape of remote workforce, some of the things we're doing to protect those remote workers when they're working from home. But he's going to have a great presentation for you guys there, and as well as Titan HQ is going to be here tomorrow with us as well. Obviously, we're going to have lots of prizes to hand out tomorrow also, and then we're going to end the whole show with just a great individual. He is a former Navy SEAL Team 6 member. Nicole's a huge fan. He's a SEAL Team 6 commander, was involved in rescuing Jessica Lynch. He's going to talk about kind of overcoming adversity really in this time, and he's got a great presentation for that. So looking forward to Dave Sears. that being said, we've got your questions. We're going to be trying to go through those questions and get a bunch of them answered that weren't able to get answered. The other piece to this is on that bundle that Kevin was talking about, that's really for the physical security and smart properties thing, that they're bundling that in. We are doing a show special for all of you clients and customers out there that do end up trialing Blackpoint and subscribing. We are offering a free month of service. So that is going to be our special, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But that being said, let's get some prizes out to these guys. Thank you so much for everyone's participation all day. Really just was wonderful. So hopefully those of you that have won some Uber Eats gift cards, we've been shooting them out all day. We're going to do some more of those, and we're going to give away an Amazon Echo as well. So that being said, Nicole, should we start the wheel of names?
Yes.
All right.
So this is for an Uber Eats gift card?
Yeah, let's do 2 Uber Eats gift cards.
Sounds good. Here we go. Juan Carlos.
Oh, Juan Carlos. All right.
Write it down, Ryan.
I am.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. Let's do one more. And then everyone.
All right. Another Uber Eats. We're
Up
going to be
here.
Here we go.
All right.
Dimitri. There you go.
Nice.
All right. Uber Eats gift card coming your way. Now let's do a big one for we'll do the Amazon Echo 8.
All right.
Let's
Amazon.
go. Winner.
We'll do a popper for this one.
All right, don't shoot yourself.
Marcus. Woo.
Bam! Marcus, you
That was a good one. Oh, man.
are a winner. All right, everybody. Again, thank you so much for your participation. Thank you so much for all the work you guys are doing out there, holding everybody together. Like I said at the beginning of today, you guys are really heroes right now, keeping these businesses afloat, keeping them safe, or trying the best you can. So thank you for that work. Please don't stop, and let us know how we can help you. We'll see us sign off now, and we'll see you all again tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.